It's 2 in the morning, and your body is exhausted, but your mind is still running. You are replaying a conversation from 6 years ago, editing what you should have said. You are rehearsing a phone call you haven't made yet. You are wondering if the text you sent this afternoon came across wrong, if that pause in the meeting meant something, if the decision you made last week was quietly the wrong one. Everyone keeps telling you to just relax, to stop overthinking, to get out of your own head. And for most of your life, you have believed them. You have believed that this endless churning is a flaw, a broken setting, a defect you were unlucky enough to be born with. But what if they had it backwards? What if the very thing you have been apologizing for your entire life is not a weakness at all, but a signature of a mind that runs deeper and faster than most? Because there is a growing body of research in psychology and neuroscience suggesting that chronic overthinking is not a malfunction. It is very often the byproduct of a rare and specific kind of intelligence, one the world quietly depends on but rarely knows how to thank. Today we are going to walk through what is actually happening inside the mind of a person who overthinks everything, and why the science says it may be one of the most misunderstood signs of a truly exceptional brain. The first thing you need to understand is that overthinking is not the same as being anxious for no reason. Overthinking is prediction. When your mind loops through a situation again and again, it is not being irrational. It is running simulations. It is taking a single moment and branching it into a dozen possible futures, testing each one for danger, for opportunity, for the thing everyone else missed. Psychologists link this to a trait called cognitive complexity, the ability to hold many competing ideas in your head at the same time and see how they interact. Most people, when they face a decision, see 2 or 3 options. The overthinker sees 15. And here is the uncomfortable truth nobody tells you. Seeing 15 options is not a curse of a weak mind. It is the burden of a powerful one. Consider what it takes to overthink a simple conversation. You have to remember the exact words that were said. You have to recall the tone, the facial expression, the timing. You have to imagine how the other person was feeling, what they might have meant underneath what they actually said, and how they might interpret your response days later. That is not weakness. That is your brain running a high-resolution model of another human being's inner world. Neuroscientists have a name for the network responsible for this. They call it the default mode network, the part of the brain that activates when you are not focused on the outside world, when you are reflecting, imagining, and mentally traveling through time. In deep thinkers, this network is unusually active and unusually rich. The same wiring that keeps you awake at 2 in the morning is the wiring that lets you understand people with a depth others can only guess at. This brings us to the first clear sign. Overthinkers are almost always highly empathetic. Because your mind naturally simulates other people, you feel the weight of how your words land. You notice the flicker of hurt someone tries to hide. You catch the friend who says they're fine but isn't. Research consistently links this kind of rumination to heightened emotional intelligence because you cannot stop yourself from processing not just your own feelings, but everyone else's too. It is exhausting, yes, but it also makes you the person others come to when they are falling apart, because somewhere deep down they know you actually see them. You are not overreacting. You are overperceiving, and there is a profound difference between the two. The second sign lives in your relationship with mistakes. An overthinker does not just make an error and move on. You dissect it, you trace it back to its origin, you identify the exact moment it went wrong, and you build a mental rule so it never happens again. To an outside observer, this looks like you are torturing yourself over something small, but from the inside, it is a relentless engine of self-correction. This is why overthinkers are so often the highest performers in fields that punish carelessness: the surgeons, the engineers, the writers, the founders. Studies on high achievers repeatedly find that the trait separating the good from the exceptional is not raw talent. It is the willingness to sit with discomfort and analyze failure instead of running from it. Your inability to let things go is, quietly, the same trait that refuses to let you stay mediocre. The third sign is that you are almost incapable of accepting easy answers. When someone hands you a simple explanation, something in you resists. You poke at it. You ask what happens in the edge case, the rare situation, the exception nobody planned for. In casual conversation, this can make you seem difficult, the person who always has a but. Yet this is the exact cognitive signature of original thinkers throughout history. Every meaningful discovery began with someone who refused to accept that the obvious answer was the whole answer. The overthinker's brain is built to find the crack in the wall that everyone else walks past. You do not overthink because you are indecisive. You overthink because your standard for what counts as true is simply higher than most people are comfortable with. There is a fourth sign, and it is the one people notice last, because it hides in plain sight. Overthinkers are pattern machines. Your mind is constantly connecting things that seem unrelated. A comment someone made last month linked to a decision they made today, a detail in one story that quietly explains another. While other people experience events as separate and disconnected, you experience them as threads in a single fabric, and you cannot help but pull on them to see what they are tied to. This is the exact cognitive foundation of creativity. Every original idea is really just two existing things connected in a way nobody thought to connect them before. Researchers studying creative thinkers find that their minds are unusually good at what is called remote association, reaching across distant categories to find the hidden link. That is your overthinking, viewed from a different angle. When you lie awake connecting one thing to another, you are not malfunctioning. You are doing the precise mental work that invention, art, and insight are made of. The tragedy is only that you have been taught to see it as noise instead of signal. Notice something about all four of these signs: the empathy, the self-correction, the refusal of easy answers, the endless pattern finding. Not one of them is available to a mind that thinks a little and then stops. They are the dividends of depth, and depth always comes at the price of quiet. The people who have never lain awake questioning themselves have also, very often, never questioned anything deeply enough to change it. Now let's be honest about the cost, because this is where it gets difficult, and pretending otherwise would be a lie. All of this power comes with a tax. The same imagination that lets you model beautiful futures also lets you model catastrophic ones in vivid detail. The same sensitivity that makes you empathetic makes you absorb stress that was never yours to carry. Overthinkers are far more prone to anxiety, to sleepless nights, to a kind of paralysis where you see so many possibilities that you cannot commit to any single one. This is real, and it deserves to be taken seriously, not dismissed with a motivational slogan. Your gift and your struggle are not two separate things. They are the same trait, pointed in two different directions. And that word, direction, is the key to everything. Because the difference between an overthinker who suffers and an overthinker who thrives is not the amount of thinking. It is where that thinking is aimed. When your analysis is pointed at a problem you can actually solve, you become extraordinary. You anticipate obstacles nobody saw coming. You prepare for the meeting like no one else in the room. You write the message that lands exactly right because you considered every way it could be misread. But when that same engine is pointed at a past you cannot change or a future you cannot control, it turns on you. The machinery is identical, only the target has moved. So the goal was never to stop thinking. That advice, the just stop overthinking advice, is not only useless, it is a little insulting, like telling a fast runner to please have shorter legs. You cannot amputate the way your mind works, and honestly, you should not want to. The goal is to become the one who aims the thinking instead of the one who gets dragged behind it. And there are ways to do that, quiet, practical ways that psychologists actually recommend. The first is to give your thoughts a container. An overthinking mind spins hardest when it is afraid it will forget something important, so it keeps everything in circulation, refusing to let any concern go until it is resolved. When you write your thoughts down, on paper, in a note, anywhere outside your skull, you signal to that vigilant part of your brain that the information is safe, that it has been recorded, that it no longer needs to be held in the air. Overthinkers who journal consistently report a measurable drop in the intensity of their loops, not because the problems disappeared, but because the mind finally trusts that they are being tracked. The second is to set a decision deadline. Because your brain can generate options infinitely, it will, if you let it, keep the search open forever, always chasing the possibility of a slightly better choice, so you give it a border. You tell yourself you will gather information until Friday, and on Friday you decide with whatever you have. This does not weaken your analysis, it focuses it. Constraints are not the enemy of a powerful mind. They are the frame that lets it finally produce something instead of endlessly refining. The third, and maybe the most important, is to learn the difference between productive thinking and repetitive thinking. Ask yourself one honest question when you catch yourself spiraling. Am I generating something new right now, or am I circling the same three thoughts on a loop? Productive thinking moves. It reaches a new insight, a new plan, a new understanding. Repetitive thinking just wears a groove. The moment you notice you are circling instead of climbing, that is your signal to physically move, to change rooms, to walk, to interrupt the pattern, because your brilliant mind has stopped solving and started grinding, and it needs a new input to break the loop. Here's what I really want you to take from all of this. For years, people have handed you a story about yourself, and the story was that you are too much, too sensitive, too intense, too deep in your own head. You carried that story so long it started to feel like a diagnosis. But look at what that same mind has actually given you. The empathy that makes people feel understood. The foresight that catches the problem before it becomes a disaster. The refusal to accept the shallow answer when the real one is buried underneath. The world is not overflowing with people who think too much. It is quietly starving for them, for the ones willing to sit in the difficulty and see what everyone else was in too much of a hurry to notice. The overthinker built the bridge that held because someone lay awake imagining every way it could fall. The overthinker wrote the words that changed a life because they cared enough to consider every way those words might be received. The overthinker is the friend who remembered, the planner who prepared, the mind that went where easier minds would not follow. Your thinking was never the problem. An untamed version of it caused you pain, yes, but the thinking itself, the depth, the range, the relentless curiosity, that was always the gift. Nobody just handed it to you gently. It arrived disguised as a flaw, and it has been waiting your entire life for you to finally recognize it for what it is. So tonight, when your mind starts to run again, try something different. Do not fight it and do not beg it to stop. Ask it what it is trying to protect you from, or point it at a problem worthy of its power, and then watch what a mind like yours can actually do when it stops apologizing for being exactly what it is. Because you were never broken. You were built deep. And in a world that rewards the loud and the fast and the shallow, a mind that refuses to stop thinking may turn out to be the rarest and most valuable thing of all. If any part of this felt like someone was finally describing the inside of your own head, then you already know this was written for you. Take it with you. And the next time somebody tells you that you think too much, you can simply smile, because now you understand something they don't. You were never overthinking. You were just paying attention on a level they never learned to reach.